There's the particular kind of tired that shows up when you are leading the room. It's not always visible though. It's like you still answer the questions, you still run the meeting, you still make the decisions, you still reassure everyone else that the team will figure it out. And from the outside, you might look calm, capable, completely in control. But inside, you are counting down how many more conversations you have to get through before you can finally be alone. Now, I remember sitting in a meeting once, listening to people just talk through a problem that had recently been discussed. More than one time, by the way, like several times. And everyone was looking toward the leadership for the direction, of course. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do, right? And I knew exactly what that room needed from me. It was clarity. It was a decision. It was confidence. And so that's what I gave them. But internally, inside of me, I was exhausted. Not because of that one meeting, because I have been carrying all the emotions, questions, deadlines, and unfinished decisions from every room that came before it. And that's one of the hardest parts of leadership burnout. You can be falling apart internally while still looking highly functional to everyone around you. Y'all, come sit with me. Come sit with me for a moment. Welcome back to Healing, Hustle, and Home. And a woman who has spent more than 18 years working inside classrooms, school systems, leadership teams, and organizations where people are just expected to keep showing up even when the work becomes heavy. So in episode 1 of this season, we talked about the cost of being the one that everybody leans on. And then in episode 2, we talked about the rest and the guilt that so many women feel when they finally stop. But today, y'all, we are carrying that conversation into the professional room, because burnout looks completely different when you are the one who's responsible for leading all the others. When you are the leader, people notice often, by the way, people often notice what you produce. They do not always notice what it costs you to keep producing. When most people hear the word burnout, they picture someone who can no longer function, someone who's calling out repeatedly, someone visibly emotional, someone ready to resign, like saying, like, I quit, I'm done with this, right? I ain't coming back, forget y'all. But leadership burnout often hides behind competence, right? You can look like you are doing a fantastic job. It can look like getting everything done while also feeling disconnected from all of it. But you got it done though. It can look like becoming more efficient, but less present. It can look like being so focused on solving problems that you stop noticing how those problems are changing you. And because you're still performing, people assume you are okay. Sometimes you even assume that you are okay too. You tell yourself, I'm just busy. This is just a hard season. Once we get through this deadline, things will calm down. Yeah, okay. Okay, we heard that many times before. But guess what? That deadline passes and another one takes its place quietly too. That crisis ends and a different problem comes up. The school year turns into summer planning. The launch turns into implementation for my business people. The meeting turns into follow up. And the leader never fully comes down from all of the responsibility. And that is why leadership burnout can be so difficult to name, because it's not always shown from the beginning with a collapse. Sometimes it begins with distance from your team, distance from the purpose behind the work, distance from yourself. So I want to give you 3 signs to pay attention to, seriously, especially as you go throughout the rest of the summer and into a new season, okay? I want you to pay attention to these 3 signs. Not so you can diagnose yourself from one difficult day, because we are going to have hard days. Always. They'll never go away. But so that you can notice patterns earlier. So let's talk about the first sign. This one, oh my goodness. Let me see if y'all can relate to this. This is when, right, every single request feels like an interruption, right? You hear your name and it's like, oh my gosh, you want to break down. It feels like somebody is just disturbing your absolute peace, okay? This is when you are well, questions are just a part of leadership, right? They should be. But when you are depleted and weighed down, every reasonable request can feel like one more person is just taking something from you, and you just feel like you are about to go off the edge, y'all. So, like, one of your team members, they might just come to you simply because they're supposed to, right? Come to you for clarification on a situation or a problem. And internally, you automatically think, why can't they figure this out? Like, come on, boo, you in this job, you should be able to do this. Someone needs a decision and you immediately feel irritated before they even finish explaining the problem. That does not automatically mean that you're a bad leader. What it may mean is that your decision-making capability, your decision-making capacity is overlit, right? Decision fatigue. You have answered too many questions without enough space to even think, okay? All right. So I think I got y'all with me for a moment. So let's think about this one. Let's think about this one. Sign number 2. I was thinking about this one a lot lately. You are present, right? Physically, you there, you in the building, you on the Zoom meeting, you showing up. But emotionally, you are attend the meeting, you nod, you respond, but part of you has already checked out. You already 5 o'clock somewhere, right? You may even stop asking questions, stop feeling curious, stop even caring about the small details that once mattered a lot to you. You're not absent from the room, but you are no longer fully in it either. And so that's emotional distance. That emotional distance is often protective response. It's your mind trying to conserve what little bit of energy that you have left. Yeah. Y'all with me yet? Maybe you're not. Maybe this is you. Sign number 3, right? Sign number 3. This one might be you. You start fantasizing about escape instead of change. You start telling yourself, or even thinking this to yourself, maybe I should just leave. Like this just is not for me anymore. I cannot do this anymore. I am done. Let me get out of here. I need to walk away from all of this. I'm done. I'm out. Because sometimes leaving is the right decision. But before you decide that the entire role is wrong, it is worth asking whether the way the role is currently structured has become unsustainable to you. Do you need a different job? Or do you need clearer boundaries? That's the question of the day. Do you need to leave leadership? Or do you need a team that shares responsibility? That's another question of the day. Do you hate the work, or are you simply exhausted from being the only person holding the work together? See, there's a difference in all three of those questions. And you have to honestly ask and answer those questions. Burnout can make every single problem look like an exit sign, right? You driving on the highway, you looking like, I'm about to take this next exit. I'm not even going into the workplace. And that is exactly why, as leaders, we need enough space to separate the role from the conditions that are surrounding it simply. So now this is where a lot of leadership advice falls short, like a lot of times, because a burned out leader will say that I can't keep carrying all of this. I'm done. I'm over it, right? And then someone will respond with something like, make sure that you take care of yourself, practice self care, take a walk, drink some water, get more sleep. Those things matter. Yeah. And they all do 100%. But here's the thing, you cannot self care your way out of a system that depends on one person carrying everything. You can't do it. So if every decision comes through you, the problem is structural. And if nobody else knows how to move the work that you do forward, the problem is structural. And if you are constantly fixing confusion caused by unclear expectations, the problem is structural. If your calendar, y'all, leaves no time for you to think, the problem is structural. So, yes, you may need rest. You may need that self care as part of it, but you may also need a better leadership system because burnout is not always a personal weakness. Sometimes it is data. It's one of my favorite words, by the way, data. It is simply information telling you that the way the work is currently operating, it cannot, I repeat, it cannot continue. So let's talk about this practice that I want to give you today. And I hope it helps you, right? Because it does help me, especially when I get to these ruts. And I'm not telling you that I do these things all the time, but I'm telling you that when I get into these situations, into these stuck moments, right? And I start trying to talk myself into or out of things, I will process through. So I call it the leadership load check, right? There's always a check in, but it only has 3 questions. But the key is you got to ask and answer these questions honestly. So the 3 questions are this: what am I carrying? What belongs to me? And what needs to move? We can dig into those each a little bit deeper. And in fact, I will, because I got something to say, especially about that thing about what belongs to me. Okay. So let's talk about what am I carrying. So, first of all, as leaders, we carry a lot. As just as humans, as people, as women, as men, we just carry a lot, right? So when you start talking about that question or asking yourself the question, what am I carrying? Start by just doing this simply. List all the decisions, the concerns, the conversations, and the responsibilities that are constantly occupying your mind, keeping you up at night, right? Not just the tasks that are on your calendar. I'm talking about the things that you keep mentally reopening, right? The staff conflict, the deadline, the parent concerns, the program that's not working, the team member that you are worried about, the decision you keep postponing. We keep postponing. Get the load out of your head and onto paper. All right, that's a start. Big start number 1. It's gonna help you just reset just by your hand writing it down on a piece of paper. I ain't say type it out. I said write it out. All right. And then the next thing you want to do is this question: what truly belongs to me? Now this is big because this is where, as leaders, we have to be extremely honest because everything don't belong to us, but yet we want to own everything. And we got to stop doing that. So I need you to be really honest here. Some things belong to you. You are responsible for the final decision. I get that. You do need to provide clarity. But y'all, you need to address an issue that you've been avoiding. Some things do not belong to you. You may be carrying responsibilities that should be shared, problems that someone else has the authority to solve or the capacity to solve, emotions that you are trying to manage for other adults. They belong to them. Work that stayed with you because delegating it felt slower than doing it yourself. No, everything doesn't belong to you. Leadership does not mean carrying everything. What it truly means is that making sure the right things are carried by the right people. Oh, y'all don't hear me? Leadership truly means that making sure the right things are carried by the right people. We got to get honest with ourselves about that because we don't need to carry everything. And that's half of the reason why some of us are bogged down. And then once we get honest with ourselves, we can talk about my third question. And that is what truly needs to move? Because there are some things that need to move and there's some things that you'll keep. Choose one item that must change. I'm not telling you that you got to overhaul everything and not everything all at once. But I want you to choose one thing that must change. Not someday. I'm talking about this week. Maybe there's a decision that needs to be made. Maybe a task that needs to be delegated. Maybe a meeting that needs to be removed. Maybe some expectations, y'all, that need to be clarified. Or maybe someone needs to be told, respectfully though, that you cannot continue owning a responsibility that belongs to them and in their role. Somebody got to say it and somebody got to do it. The goal is not to reorganize your entire leadership life in one sitting or in one day or not even 1 week. The goal is truly to reduce one source of unnecessary weight, one source at a time. Just like when we remove our clothing or our accessories, we remove one thing at a time because small structural changes can create more relief than another inspirational quote about resilience, period. All right. So let's say that your team keeps coming to you with the same questions. And your first instinct might be to just answer faster, right? But the leadership load check asks you to look deeper, to think about what am I carrying? Repeated decisions that should not require my involvement every single time, right? So that's the question. You shouldn't have to be involved every single time with that same question. And then you think about this, what truly belongs to me? You got to start clarifying the process and the decision-making rules because there's some decisions that can be made without you. You just need to be informed. But you're in the middle of it all. And then think about what needs to move. The team may need a written protocol. They may need clearer ownership or even permission to make certain decisions without waiting for you every single time. And that, my friends, is a system level response. You are not simply trying to become more patient with the same broken process. You are changing the process that keeps draining everyone. That is what sustainable leadership looks like. It doesn't look like doing more. It simply looks like creating clarity that fewer things depend on you alone. And that's enough. So I want to say something directly to all the leaders who are listening today. And doesn't matter where you lead, you're a leader, right? You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to admit that the work has become heavy. You are allowed to need support before you reach the point of resignation. Before you throw in the towel and say, you know what, I'm done with this. I need to figure out something else. Naming your exhaustion does not make you weak at all. It gives you your first useful piece of data. Because once you can name what is happening, you can begin asking better questions. Is this a temporary season? Is this a capacity problem? Is this a boundary problem? Is this a responsibility I need to release? Is this a workplace that is asking me to continually sacrifice myself in order to keep it functioning? Like, all of those questions matter for you, and they require more than endurance. What they truly require is honesty, pure honesty. The strongest leader in the room is not always the one who can carry the most. Sometimes it's the one who is willing to say, I cannot, this cannot continue operating this way. That sentence can protect you. It can also protect your team and the people around you, because when the leader is overloaded, y'all, the whole team eventually feels it, even if we're trying to hide it or protect them from it. Because the decisions slow down, communication becomes shorter, a little bit more frustrating, agitated. Trust begins to erode and be torn away little by little. People become afraid to ask questions, even. Everything becomes more reactive. So, taking your leadership health seriously is not separate from serving your team well. It is part of serving them well. So, before you move on into the rest of your day, I want you to ask yourself, what am I carrying right now that should not depend on me alone? And you can apply that into every situation, every environment, every room that you're going to walk into in your life, every role that you play in your life. What am I carrying right now that should not depend on me alone? Do not rush past the answer. Write it down. Then complete the leadership load check. And you know those 3 questions. Let me tell you those questions one more time. What am I carrying? What belongs to me? What needs to move? And choose one adjustment, y'all. One conversation, one responsibility, one system. You do not have to fix everything today, but you do need to stop pretending that carrying everything is the same as leading well. Now, if this episode helps you recognize that your exhaustion may be connected to the way the work is structured, I want you to do this for me. This was for all my school leaders out there, all my folks that work in a school in any way. I want you to take the school leadership reality check. Y'all know I'm an educator. That's what I love. It is a short assessment that was designed to help school leaders take a step back, look at their current systems honestly, y'all. Look at those honestly and identify where clarity, shared responsibility, or stronger implementation may be needed. And you will find the link to that in the show notes for today. And listen, you do not need another reminder to work harder. What you need is a clearer picture of what the room, this room, your leadership room, is asking from you right now, and what it should no longer require you to carry alone. Next week, y'all, we're going to get even more personal, because I'm sharing a real story about a moment over this past year when I almost quit on myself. Now, I'm not talking about a pretty, perfect, polished lesson. I'm not talking about a success story tied up that's, nice and neat at the end of it. I'm talking about a real moment when walking away felt easier than continuing. So be sure that you're following the podcast so that you don't miss that next conversation. Thank you so much for sitting with me today. I want you to remember, healing is how you become the woman. Hustle is how you build the work. And home is how you steward every room you have been entrusted with. But leadership was never meant to require the loss of the leader, ever. Talking about one woman, two rooms, one life. And I'll see you here next week.